Yeah, we're going to be playing Paleomythic by Graham Rose. It is published right now under Osprey, their role playing arm. It's a really, really cool little RPG. It's strange because it's very simple, but it is a pretty thick, like A5 book. So well worth the look if you haven't seen it before. We're just going to be using D6s, but the Albert Rodeo will be handling that for us, and we are going to be creating characters together. So before we get into the story, we have to create some people. So everybody should have access to the character sheet that I put up in our Discord. So hopefully you have that ready for you. And if you look to the right of the main table here in Owlbear, put a whole bunch of tables. Not many. It's pretty straightforward. But yeah, we're just gonna roll some dice to see where we're at. So I need everybody to roll a d6 for their age. Age isn't gonna have really an impact on your character or your abilities. What the age represents for you is kind of up to you. So if you're playing an old person, maybe you're just old in your soul,
Okay.
but you're also very young. It's totally up to you.
I rolled a
So
3.
age, what's that?
I rolled a 3, so I'm an adult.
Okay.
I got
I
5.
got 1.
Oh, we got a seasoned, all right.
Yeah,
and an
seasoned.
adolescent.
Pepper and salt.
All right. Well, I guess I am going to be Bam Bam and not Barney Rubble based on my age.
Oh, okay. You got young too. All right, young, nice. Now, as far as names, you guys can make up your own names if you want to, but there is a handy little, like, quick way to generate a kind of appropriate name. You roll a d6, and if you get a 1, 2, or 3, you roll a short name. If you roll a 4, 5, or 6, you roll a long name on the next list. And there are some additions for if you want the name to sound a certain way. So you can do that, or you can come up with your own. Totally up to you. But once everybody has a name, then we'll go on to the meat of it.
I am Var.
You are Far.
Var. V-A-R.
Far, gotcha. Okay.
Far away.
Far is one of them, interestingly enough. Farvar, you could be Varfar.
For Far.
What else do we have?
I went for Baruch.
Baruch? Oh yeah, that's right, I saw that.
I went Taran.
Cool.
I am Cool, if nobody ever took that one yet. In fact,
Nope.
Everybody could say then I am the original Cool.
Yeah, right. The beginning of Cool.
Cool, son of Cool.
Nice. So yeah, if you want to, you can add those to your names on the player list. If not, that's fine too. But yeah, traits is where the game is played. So every character is made up of a number of traits. Just to make it easy, we're going to say everybody starts with 5 traits. So you're going to roll your traits randomly, and then you can just kind of tick off which traits you have on your character sheet. Much as with the names, you roll a d6. If you get a 1, 2, or 3, you roll on the first table. If you get a 4, 5, or 6, you roll on the second table. And you're going to do that 5 times. And it gives you the title of the trait, for example, accurate, and then it also gives you kind of a description of what you can do with that trait. As you're rolling all of those up for your characters, I will explain how they work. So basically, as we play the game, your traits are a combination of your overall skill, your specific abilities, and your health. So you're all starting with 5 traits. That means that when you attempt to do anything in the game that requires a dice roll, there's an element of chance, you're going to roll 5 dice just automatically. If one of your traits is tied to what you're doing, so let's say that I'm trying to knock a coconut out of a tree with a rock, I'd roll accurate. So if I have accurate as one of my traits, then I roll 6 dice. You get your 5 dice for your 5 traits, plus an additional die because you actually have that trait. So you can do anything, but if you actually have a trait, you're going to get a bonus die. And also, as I said, they're also your health. So if you find yourselves in a situation where maybe you fall and hurt yourself, or in the, I'm sure, unlikely event that any kind of combat occurs and you find yourself injured, you actually mark off your traits as you take damage, which is what the far left-hand side boxes next to the traits are for, is to click them and mark that they are injured. Just so everybody's not absolutely terrified, this isn't a situation, this game doesn't roll damage dice. Pretty much everything does 1 damage. Sometimes things will do a little bit more. If you get mauled by a grizzly bear, that's going to be more than 1 damage. And there are ways to mitigate that, which we'll talk about after we figure out your equipment. But yeah, for the most part, as you take damage, you check off your traits, and you cannot gain the benefit of them. So your dice rolls go down, and you can't use them in a skill until you've recovered. And then we'll talk about recovery when we come to that. So does everybody have their 5 traits to begin with?
Right, my screen and Jake's screen looks just a little bit different.
Oh.
I don't have the bar on the bottom that he has, and I wonder, like, am I missing out on something? I might need to change browser or turn my ad blocker off. Maybe let's try that.
Hang on.
I don't know if there's anything.
Oh, that's just for like the tokens and graphics.
That bar on the bottom, none of you should have access to really anyway.
Okay, that's fine then. So when you talk about the character sheet as such, I see that we've got the tables, like the short names, long names.
There's a PDF in the Discord. Albert unfortunately doesn't have character sheet support.
Got you. Right, I'm on it.
And the character sheet I put in the Discord is fillable, so you should just be able
to. Right. Yeah. That's cool. Okay. Totally paying attention.
Oh, yeah. No, it's good. So, with those questions answered, did you roll your traits, or do you need a minute? Has everybody got 5?
Yeah, if you roll the same trait twice, you just re-roll.
You re-roll, yes. Yeah, you do not double up on traits. It's a good question. Interestingly enough, some animals can double up on traits. Using a grizzly bear, for example, again, for no reason. They have 2 strong traits. But yeah, people don't. Now, if we move slightly to the right and up again, 2 more things, I guess, are going to fill out your character. One is a talent, and then your equipment. So for a talent, everyone has, and there are quite a selection of them. At the start, we're going to say a single talent. So you need to roll essentially a D6-6, where the first die is going to determine what talent group you're in: adept, bestial, fighter, oracle, sorcerer, or specialist. And then within those individual groupings, there is a specific talent that you will earn. And I can tell you what you get for that talent. I did not put all of those up because there are a lot of them and they do varied things. There are spaces on your character sheets to put in your first talent. So if we want to go through one at a time, Jake, would you like to determine your talent first?
Yes, it should be really easy. If 5 means talentless, my wife is correct.
So 5 is what you rolled?
Yes.
So that's in the sorcerer group, actually. So roll another d6.
Oh, 5 again.
5 again. You are a shaman. Good to have in a group.
Yeah.
So
right time period.
The
for it,
shaman
too.
has a couple of different abilities, actually. You can enter the other world in spirit form to commune with the dead. That's just something you can do. It's not like there are specific rules for it necessarily. If you ever want to do that, we'll kind of deal with that. You can also repel, punish, and banish spirits. This includes spirits in all forms, be they ghosts, shadows, wraiths, or animated dead. Each technique is an action, and the effects are different for each one, but pretty self-explanatory. Repel is kind of like turning, if you will. Punishing enables you to deal damage to spirits and spirit-type creatures, and banish can force them back into the other world. So yeah, just make sure you write down shaman, travel to the other world, repel, punish, and banish. And that should be enough for you. In addition, you get some starting goods. So let me know when you've got the abilities written down, and then we'll give you your starting good.
Yeah, I have repel, punish, banish, travel to the other worlds.
Great.
And is there a specific place this needs to go into, or not really?
Just talents.
Oh, okay, it's under.
You can throw it in
those
one
are
of
the
the talent
talents.
boxes.
And shaman goes where?
Oh, that's just one of your, like, I would just put shaman and then the abilities in one of the talent boxes.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it's not each talent in each section.
No. That's all kind of one thing.
Okay.
Now, for your starting goods for being a shaman, and then you can also roll additional starting goods. So on Owlbear, on the right-hand side, there is a D6 chart where you're going to roll 3 times. You can double up on those, which means you could have 2 bags or 2 bone knives. But in addition to those random 3, and all of you can roll your random 3 right now if you want to. For the shaman, Jake, you're also going to get a hood, which counts as armor.
Okay.
So you have armor on your head. You get a fire-making kit. You get a pouch of incense. You get a pot, not the plant, but like an actual pot.
Right.
It's
And
essential.
Right. And you get a carved animal bone fetish that is like your symbol that you use. You can determine what animal and what kind of carvings it may have on it. So that is Jake with the shaman. Who wants to roll for their talent next? Should I just go in order on what I see on my screen? Croy, do you want to go?
Yeah, so 2d6?
Yep. First D6 is the group. Second is the specific talent.
Okay, so hang on. The first one is a 5.
You're also a sorcerer. Okay.
And the second
Yeah, we're all
is
shamans.
a 3.
A 3. Okay, so you are a doomsayer.
Oh, should be easy. We're all doomed.
Yeah, you have no
So-
special abilities. You're just a pessimist.
So doomsayer, let's see, has the power to cause pain and injury merely by pointing an object called a fetish at a target. Fetish is a focus for the magic, typically an object such as a stick or bone decorated with carvings, feathers, animal skulls. Each time a fetish is used, the player rolls a die to see whether or not it breaks. If it does break, don't sweat it too much because you can make another one. There are crafting rules
Does
in
it
the game.
break on a 1?
It breaks on a 1, yes. So it's basically you have a mystical attack ability.
Cool.
On other results, the power of the fetish holds and it can be used again. Target of doomsaying must be a human or beast man. It has no effect on animals, so keep that in mind. When the talent is used, the player makes a willful test. That also happens to be what all your tests are, Jake.
Oh, that's
Okay.
one of the traits I don't have, so that's great.
Well, it happens. It's
It
random.
happens. Yeah, it's cool. I like it. Okay. Yeah.
Nobody
So
said you were a good pessimist.
So what's really interesting even more is you actually have to roll to see what happens when you use your fetish.
Yeah.
So you'll get a random effect. you'll deal a wound and then a random effect of either harass, in which case they cannot benefit from traits on their next action, vex, where they're momentarily filled with anguish and haunting visions, where they lose their next action, or torment, where they're subjected to deep hidden trauma, horror, and pain. They fall, take an additional wound, and cannot attack again until they stand, which counts as a day.
Oh, wow.
So basically, you're going to roll a d3 in addition to a wound every time. So I'm going to bookmark that page, and then we'll move on to the next. Oh, sorry, you need your equipment. So for the equipment for a Doomsayer, you have a skull helm. You determine the type of skull.
Okay.
And that counts as armor on your head.
Yeah.
You have a fetish, a carved animal bone of some kind, and one weapon determined by rolling a die. So roll a d6 for me.
Okay. I rolled the 3D for equipment before. I rolled a 2 this time.
So you have a bone. You just have a big old bone in addition to the other equipment that you've rolled.
I got a knife, a rope, and a bone.
Didn't ask too many questions on why it looks longer than you'd expect.
All right, so Lloyd is next on my list for
All right, here
talents.
goes. So we got 6 for ritualist.
Oh, okay.
Oh no, sorry. 6 is that's specialist. Oh, I was looking the wrong way around.
So yeah, 6 is specialist, and then
gatherer.
What was the second die? Gatherer. Okay, gatherer is actually not too shabby. So, whenever you're foraging, whether you're foraging for food or materials, you add 1 to the number of meals found in any habitat, and you only take half a day to find food. When searching for craft materials, you find D3 uses of material rather than a single. Very helpful when it comes to crafting and gathering materials. You're also accomplished in getting the most out of things. When using an improvised tool, which is just kind of anything you can put together, you're allowed to make a wise test. If successful, the item can be treated as the correct tool for one specific task. So one of the side rules of this game is if you're using a tool for something, it has to be the correct tool for you to get the bonus. But as a gatherer, you're able to make a wise test to kind of make anything the correct. You're the Stone Age.
Glad I got wise.
Oh, did you? Nice. Now, for your starting goods, you have fiber leg wraps, like plant fiber and twig leg wraps, which counts as armor. You have a bag. You have a bone shovel. You also have a pot and a pestle. And roll a d6 to determine a random weapon.
Oh, sorry, what was that doing? So I had leg wraps. Was it a pack?
A bag, a bone shovel, a pot, pestle, and some random range or random weapon. Roll a d6.
5.
Have a horn stake. And that brings us to Russ for the final talent.
Hey. I got a 4. So it's an oracle.
Oracle. You're a very, very heady group.
And then a 2, which is a cultist.
Okay.
Oh, nice.
All right, so cultist. Interesting. So you believe that you are rewarded for your devotion by being favored by your god, which can be a god, a spirit, whatever you want it to be. Most likely something that the rest of your tribe reveres as well. So we'll let you determine that. Whenever you would normally be injured, you get to roll a single die, pardon me, called the cult die. On a roll of 6, it means you miraculously avoid the injury. This works against all forms of injury caused by violence or mishap, but not damage caused as the result of poison, illness, or disease. If you roll a 1 on that die, then you lose the favor of your deity, and you are no longer protected by them until you make an offering to your god.
Okay.
It has to have a value equivalent to the number of traits you have. That's something we'll worry about if it happens. The offering can be left at a shrine, temple, or other area appropriate to the deity. Now, as far as specific equipment for the cultist, you get a crude statuette of your deity, a handheld thing,
Okay.
and a random weapon. So roll a d6 for me.
3.
Okay. You also have a bone.
Cool.
Now, you don't really need stats for those weapons because they just are. Some weapons have special effects that occur if you roll a 6 on the weapon die when you attack with the weapon, so we'll deal with that if we come to it. But normally it's stuff like doing additional damage or causing bleeding, things like that. It depends on the weapon. Now, as far as the armor you all have, just so you're aware of how that works for those of you that have it, when you get hit, particularly in combat, you can sacrifice your armor to reduce the amount of wounds that you take. However, armor does not reduce wounds to 0. So if you get hit for 1 injury, you can't do anything about it. If something hits you for 2 or 3, though, you can sacrifice your armor to reduce the amount of injury that you take. And then that armor is not usable again until it's repaired. It's considered broken at that point, unless you have a shield, which shields actually are only broken on a 1. Of course, nobody has a shield, but if anybody's interested in making one at some point, you certainly can. So that's it for your characters. Traits, talents, gear. Does anybody have any questions before we jump into some story?
Yeah, what's Croy's character's name again?
Varshiar.
Var.
Yar.
V is in vehicle. VAR. Var.
Var.
All right, I'm gonna hide all these bad boys. And
Excellent. I get to be dark and mysterious.
yeah,
Depressing.
it's really funny that you're Doomsayer. Okay, so now, as a reminder, I have left the game mechanics summary up in the upper right-hand corner there if you need to look at that, but again, it's just all rolling d6s, so not terribly taxing, I don't think. But we're going to start around the campfire with our tribe. Your tribe is a planeswalking tribe. You are nomadic, and in fact, it's very uncommon in this time period for there to be groups of people who are sedentary. There are a few more permanent settlements that you might know of or have traded with, but by and large, most groups of people that gather in any number, they travel, and they travel to find safety and food. There's no farming to speak of. There's a lot of moving and hunting and so on and so forth. So you live in what a lot of people refer to as the northern regions of the continent. And although many of you don't know this, and in fact very few people in your tribe would know it, but it is kind of a Pangea type situation where it's just a large continent in the ancient history of the world. weather patterns are also strange. It's been warm for a very long time, and although there has been cooling periods, there has not really been a winter to speak of. But some of the elders in your group, and hating to use a phrase that everybody has heard to the death, but some of the elders in your group have spoken of winter coming, and they're concerned at what that might mean for your group. There's also been tremors occurring relatively regularly, to the point of even one of your most agile hunters the other day was knocked on his rump by a particularly strong tremor that shook the land beneath him. And some of you, perhaps even with the abilities you have, with your being able to speak to your deities and look into the other world, or perhaps just sense the doom coming, might even be the ones who are concerned about what that means. Some of your elders, though, have informed you that means that one of the mountains in the region is waking, and they think that it's the one that has a plume of smoke that is rising from it on occasion. It's not constant, but it is occasionally seen in the sky in the distance. So your elders have gathered you together as the most likely to be capable of investigating the situation, and have asked you both to go inspect the mountain, while at the same time looking for some type of shelter that your tribe might have in the coming winter, because you don't have buildings. I mean, oftentimes you seldom even build any type of structures. There is occasionally a large leaf and branch structures set up for like protection from the rain, but for the most part, as I said, your people tend to sleep on the ground and find rest where they may, and quite well. But winter is something that a lot of the young in your group have no experience with, and so the elders are asking that you go see what's going on. Now, in order to facilitate play a little bit later on, if you want, it's certainly not a requirement, but you certainly can draw a picture of your character around the campfire using the drawing tools that are pretty simple. Just, stick figures will do. Doesn't take much. And if you want to use that as your person, you can, and just select it with the selection tool, and then you're able to move it around. So something to keep in mind if you want to do that. I'll leave that up there if anybody wants it. So you all have some equipment. Your tribe is relatively well outfitted currently. In terms of food, water at this point is still relatively easy to find in the plains and the woods that you all travel through. Is there anything you want to do, anything you want to talk about, anything you want to ask the elders with regards to this task that they've set before you?
It's going to end terribly. It's just, if we stay here, we don't have to move anywhere. Then we can just wait and see what happens. We don't have to go.
That sounds like the perfect reason to go and do something.
And the concern that the elders have is that this entire place that you see now that you're traveling on will be covered in feet of snow. And
look at the young ones.
Freeze to death.
What do they know? They've never seen hardship. They don't understand it.
Will we have extra supplies, or will we just have to make do with what we have?
Well,
We have many days' journey to the mountain.
being that your tribe travels like every other tribe, I mean, it's not like they have a whole lot of stuff in reserve, as it were. You might be able to get a few extra items that some in the tribe might be willing to give to you with an appropriate test to try to convince them to give you a few items if there's anything in particular you might find useful. But it's, when it comes to food particularly, you'll probably have to hunt, forage along the way.
Yeah.
Well, you sound wise. I think I'm going to follow your lead. I'm one of those young ones you spoke about who's never seen this type of trouble before.
And if you listen to him, you'll do nothing about it. We should investigate, find out what has angered the mountain.
We should.
What omens are on the wind.
It'd be an adventure.
Now, your tribe doesn't normally go that far north. The mountains are more of kind of a barrier range that you all tend not to travel into or beyond. But some who have gone that far north tell you that there is a great forest at the foot of the mountains. And in fact, some of you in the travels of your tribe may have even seen it at a distance. There is a river that you know that lies in your path on the way there. Aside from that, though, it's largely open pastures with tall grasses. Not necessarily safe, per se, because you all know there are predators.
Do we know if there are any other tribes that we may pass through?
You've heard tell of a tribe that lives in the mountains, but none of you have ever engaged with them.
We should find out where our tribe is moving on, so that when we're on the return trip, we know where to meet them.
Your tribe is going to
on from here.
continue. Yeah, the plan was to continue to head north in the hopes that you will be able to find a place for them to winter, and possibly begin the beginnings of a fortified place to live, depending on how long this winter might last. Because some of the old ones speak of decades, years, many cycles, however you pass time, of winters in the past. So they're going to head that way, but they're also going to be, kind of moving at a more leisurely pace and hunting and gathering and crafting and stuff as they go. So they'll be some days behind you if you just travel straight away to investigate.
Well, at least if we get to choose the cave, then we can choose the gloomiest one with the darkest corners.
I'm surprised you're standing this close to the campfire.
That's a good point.
I'm wondering if I can roll the bones to see what's going to happen. What will the bones tell me?
Do you want to go into the spirit world and see if you can find any spirits that you can ask for information or aid?
Yeah. That sounds pretty cool, actually.
Okay. Well, you will need time to do that. It will probably take you the rest of the evening to prepare the various materials that you need and set yourself up a small sweat lodge to be able to do so. Yeah, you can certainly do that.
All right.
Is anybody else going to do anything while... sorry, what was your shaman's name again, Jake?
Cool.
Cool.
Cool, right. While Cool consults the spirits, is anybody else doing anything?
Baruch could probably just spend the time to like check over all of his gear to make sure he's prepared for the. I assume he'll be leaving in the morning, and then at first light.
Unless the spirits say otherwise, I would imagine.
We shall see.
Var picks up his bone. It looks like it could be a leg of a human. It's a long enough bone, and yeah, and he puts it up to the fire, and he blackens it. And then he pulls it away from the fire, and he puts his finger on it, and then he just gets the smudge and he rubs it around his eyes. He's just doing that. He's just applying this kind of burnt charcoal onto his face, making himself look dark and shadowed.
Okay.
I think Torrin is probably praying to Devwicca as she slices into the bone that she's picked up to use as a weapon, and just like puts the 3 little notches that's fairly typical for followers of that particular goddess.
All right. So, Jake, why don't you give me a willful test?
All right.
Again, you'll roll 5 dice, because that's currently how many traits you have.
Okay.
We established you don't actually have willful, so you won't get a bonus die there. However, if you're taking time to prepare, I'll give you a bonus die for that.
Okay, so 6-sided dice.
Correct. And all you need is 1 6.
And that's all I got.
There you go. All right, so you travel into the spirit realm, and one of the first spirits that you encounter is a gazelle spirit. And it's just kind of standing there looking at you. Kind of frozen. Maybe it's unsure.
You should run away. If my tribes finds you, they're gonna hunt you for food.
Well, you are the only one of your kind I've ever seen here.
What can you tell me about where I'm going?
First, you must tell me where you are going.
My tribe has sent me on a task, but I am quite young. I wish somebody more wise would speak to you about these things.
Do you tell it the task? Traveling to the mountain and... Okay.
Have you been there?
I've been all across these areas. The mountain is a dangerous place. It can have a safe place for you and your people, depending upon how many of you there are. And your tribe is probably 30 or 40 people, all told. Various ages. But there are caves there. You have to be careful, though, because they were once held by another tribe, different from yours.
How are they different?
Do all of your tribe look like... Gazelle doesn't have hands. Look
Right.
like you? 2 legs, 2 arms standing on your legs?
Well, yes and no.
Well, if they're at all similar, this other tribe that once held the high places and the deep places, they were similar to you, but they also had tails and scales.
And are they still there?
I've not been there for a long time, but I don't see why they wouldn't be.
This mountain, it looks, it is it large enough to have enough caves for both tribes?
Perhaps.
Are there any other dangers that we should look about, and how will we know this safe haven when we find it?
Well, you'll want to go to the mountain that's smoking. That's where the largest halls are for a group of your size. And there are other dangers. There are packs of hunters that travel the plains. There's a great white bear that travels the mountainside. He hunts your kind.
How can we defeat this great white bear?
Much in the same way you would defeat any other, I would assume, with wit, cunning, weapons. I would gore it with my horns, but it's much too large for me.
If I send it here to visit with you, can you talk to it and ask it to be nice?
Oh, he can't see me. That's the only reason why I know he's up there hunting.
I better warn my friends. And how many hunters are in these packs?
Oh, there are many, many times many that travel the plains. I'm sure you've seen them outside your firelight. Their yellow eyes staring, waiting for people to be left on their own. Even now, they're on the outskirts of your camp.
They are?
Yes?
I better go warn my friends. Can I
Keep
come
the
back
fire
and
bright.
visit you?
Of course, anytime. I am here, always.
What is your name?
I don't have a name.
Can I call you the Wise Gazelle?
Of course.
I am cool.
You are very cool.
You are very wise.
So I am.
How do I get back to my friends to warn them about these hunters?
Well, just go back to your body.
Oh, okay, like this?
Yep. And you come out of it.
Okay.
You might be a little dazed from the concoctions that you use to achieve the state that you enter, but no, you're fully back. It's things definitely have a much more muted tone in the real world from what you've just experienced, but you've done that many times before. You're aware.
So I'll talk to everybody, but I'm probably in an excited state. Okay, and there's the mountain, and it has a lot of smoke, and it'll have big caves that we can all live in and be happy, except we have to be very careful because there are other people with scales and tails, and they might not like us there, but there should be enough room for all of us. And there's this big white bear, and we want to kind of stay away from him because he's very mean and very big and very strong. And there are also other hunters and stuff, and the wise gazelle told me everything. But also we have to get everybody away from here like now, because there are hunters just on the outskirts now trying to come and get us. So we got to move, and let's hurry up and do this.
Cool.
Yes.
I knew we had some way of recording all that information in a more usable form.
Cool. You've seen what we can do to people. And I point this at them. And I take out from the folds of my robe a really glassy looking, shiny, almost pyramid stone on a stick. It's pointed, not perfectly, but it's recognizable as a pyramid. And you know the pain that they feel. You don't need to worry about any hunters. But that bear? What did you say? There was a beast, a what?
It's white in color, so when it's white on the ground, we might not see it very well. But it's not white on the ground, we could see it probably really good. But it's really big and really strong, and the wise gazelle, he's very happy that this white bear can't see him.
Wow.
But with wisdom and guile and cunning and tools and weapons, we could possibly defeat it.
It's a good job we've got Torrin with us. And Farouk.
So if anybody wants to make an aware test to see if you're bothering to look around as Cool warns you.
Yeah, Taran would.
And give it.
So no real tools to add to this one. Just roll your traits, 5 dice.
I've got
Unless
aware.
you
Do I
also
get
have
extra one?
aware, then you get an extra die. Yep.
I did not roll.
No dice.
No.
I do have
I
aware.
got 2 ones, if that counts for anything.
I have aware, so I can roll 6.
Unless I could improvise some kind of awareness apparatus.
All right, I rolled 2
Oh,
6s.
that was weird. So all you need for this is 1 6. So I froze for a second. I didn't. Let me see. Is everybody's dice still up there? Yeah. So us, that's none. Boys, none. Jake got 2. And Luke got none. All right. So Jake, you do see the yellow eyes kind of on the outskirts in the shadows beyond your encampment. They're low to the ground. And you've seen them before. I mean, they're probably wolves or coyotes, maybe jackals. But as long as you keep the bonfire going, generally they won't approach. They may try to take anybody who strays from the fire. And to be fair, if your group left and you're out and it's just the 4 of you on the plains on the following evening, they might be bold enough. With as many people as there are in your tribe, it's probably nothing to worry about right now. But it's up to you guys what you want to do about it.
Yeah, guys, over there, those things with the dandelion colored eyes, they're all over again. And I huddle closer to the fire.
If you point them out, then the rest of you can see there's at least 4 on the outskirts, on the shadows.
We should tell the hunters.
We should take them out ourselves.
I don't know. There's
How
as
many do we
of
see?
them as there
Well,
are
the
of
eyes.
us. There are 8 eyes.
You can see 4. 8 eyes, right? Four pair.
Well, I think if we make a show, maybe we can just scare them off, deter them from coming back.
Well, if we
They
do
have a
that,
will
then
to survive as much as we do.
we can't hunt them and eat them, and wear their fur.
We've just eaten.
Yeah, that's true. We shouldn't waste food.
I take the bone that I've got, I tie it onto the rope that I've got, and get ready
You're going fishing.
for a wolf.
Are you
Or-
making a bone la?
I'll see what happens.
I was wondering if I could grab a burning branch from the fire.
Absolutely.
So it'd be more imposing.
I'm going to take out my little bone knife.
So you're going to go out after them?
Let's see if we can spook them so they can run away.
Forgive my ignorance, but what is a rushlight? Is that just a torch?
It's
so-
kind of like a torch. It's like dried, oil-soaked, like rushweed.
So the eyes are kind of all over. They're not in any one place. It's as if they're just kind of circling the camp. So if you wanted to approach one, good.
I take my rope over.
We could send Cool out so they can all go to one place.
Not cool, man. Not cool.
Okay, far then.
There, that's it.
Oh, we've dealt with these before. This isn't a problem. Come on, just look imposing. Make yourself look big.
So you're going to try and scare it off?
And make a
Yeah.
lot of noise. So we start
Now-
going like that,
Okay.
and then start, and I take my robes on either side in the corner, make myself look like a winged animal. I start kind of jumping up and down like this with my legs up, my knees right up, and screaming and shouting, hollering and whooping as I run towards them.
Old men are strange.
Okay. I like that. Let's
See why no one likes
call
hanging out with him.
Torrin's gonna kiss her, the symbol that she's just carved onto the bone, and just run screaming after him as well. Like long hair just streaming behind her, and waving the bone that she just carved in as a symbol.
All right. So yeah, you
I
two
was
definitely give me
gonna
a guile.
wave the flaming branch at the one that would be sort of closest to where I was. I don't know if
Okay.
charismatic works on
This would be
animals,
more
but
guileful,
branch might help. Yeah,
but you holding a burning torch, essentially, that is definitely going to help.
Yeah.
So you get a tool die for your roll. Is Cool doing anything, or is he letting the adults
Cool, I
charge the?
think, wants to invoke punish on these wolves, or on one. I'm not sure what that trait means.
I will say so. I'll say that Cool is despite being young, is well enough versed in his abilities to know that these are natural animals. These are not spirits. So his techniques won't really work on them.
Ah.
You will know if you encounter something that is tied to the spirit world, but these are just garden variety wolves. They're not spirit hosts.
So I'll be having my knife out because, I kind of heard that I just want to make sure that nobody had it in their head to actually, in the end, throw one of these things my way. So I'll have my knife out just in case.
Okay.
And I'm staying close to the fire.
Some additional embellishments on the wolf there. That's nice. So, cool. So, Cool's going to hang out by the fire. So I'll need Var, Barak, and Taran to make guileful
Nice.
rolls, since you're trying to scare them away rather
I
than
got 2
fight
6s.
them. Okay.
I failed.
I got a 6 and a couple of 1s. I don't know if that's important.
I wasn't sure
No,
if
the
Taran was
ones-
trying to scare them off or try to actually murder them.
It sounded like you were just kind of screaming and trying to scare them off, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, the ones won't matter unless it's on a tool die. So, like, if Lloyd had rolled a 1 on his tool die for the torch, then it would have gone out, and he wouldn't be able to use it again. So, yeah. So in this case, at least 2 of you scare off 2 of the wolves. The one looking at you, Croy, is kind of like, it's looking at you like, really? That's what you got? But it sees its pack members kind of peel off and run away. So it's not a lone wolf, as it were. It follows its pack members, and you see the other eyes, the other set that no one approached, kind of peel off and run off into the night as well. And
Just doing it at a casual gait, like looking back at you every now and then going, really? Really?
what you do see, though, all of you, is you see some of the hunters, like, look up from their various little individual fires or wherever they're sitting, kind of working on their tools and whatnot, and they're all looking at you like, okay, I don't know if that was necessary, but, it's good on you. And they go back to working on their stuff. They didn't seem terribly concerned. But they appreciate that you basically saved them from having to do it or having to fight the wolves. So, yeah. So,
And it's good
unless
practice
anybody
for
has
us when we're walking alone in the mountain.
I'd rather the wolves weren't lingering around when we did set off in a smaller group.
That's true. Although, from what you all know, they do tend to be night hunters, unless they're extremely hungry, as it were. But yeah, you run them off, and if any of you decides to keep a lookout for the rest of the evening, you don't see any other eyes pop up. So yeah, if there's nothing else that anyone wants to do in the night, we can move on to the morning.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So yeah, it's morning. Still no sign of any wolves. But again, might be hard to see them in the high grasses beyond the areas where you have tamped down for your encampment. Are there any particular items or anything that you wanted to request from any of your tribesmates before moving on? Does anybody want a shield or any additional armor, or
I think
feel
that I'm
good
young
with what
enough
you
that
got?
I would, at this point, not have anything creative, but I would want a copy. So I think I'm going to ask for a rope and a bone,
okay?
because
So,
that's what I
go
saw
ahead.
Var using, and I'm like, okay, so that must be how we deal with things, because that's how we learned. And if I have like another
Right.
cloak to make myself look bigger and winged or something, and it might protect me from the cold of the mountain, if I know mountain tops are cold or not. But
Well, from what you all have seen, although you tend to travel the plains and it's been very temperate for a very long time, you know what snow is, and you can see that the tops of the mountains have snow on them. So it just really depends on how far up you're going, which unfortunately the gazelle wasn't really helpful on that sense, although it did direct you to the smoking mountain. But yeah,
If I
as
have
far
a
as
thing.
Go ahead.
Sorry, so if there's anything that might have that could serve us as cloaks if we are going to go somewhere cold.
Well, the best thing that anybody encourages you to do, because your tribe hasn't even really done this yet, would be to hunt something with fur and make your own.
Like wolves?
Potentially,
Which way did they
yes.
run off to?
Exactly. Come back! Come back!
You could try and track them.
Yeah.
I think in that case, Torrin would want another bone or some sort of like bone knife type thing in addition to the ones that she's already got. If we're going to be
So yeah, pick one: a bone or a knife.
let's go another bone. She can just run
Okay.
in with 2 bones, one in each hand. It'll be great.
Okay. And Jake, you wanted rope and a bone, and that's pretty
Yeah.
easy to, somebody can very quickly, or maybe they just have some rope that they had already braided that they're willing to offer you since you're going on a quest for the tribe.
Can I maybe grab a sling?
Yeah,
With a scrap
yeah,
of
I'm
hide
sure.
somewhere?
After seeing you all deal with the wolves last night, one of the hunters is willing to give you a sling, and he
Just
also
they'll have
gives
utility
you
with hunting as well.
sure. He also gives you a pouch with 2d6 nice river stones in it that he thinks are good for using. I mean, you'll just be able to pick up stones, but you already have some.
These are the good rocks.
How about Var? Does Var want anything, or is he?
Bar is going to walk over to a group of the young hunters that he knows have come back a few times quite successful, and he's just going to stand over them, and he's going to stare at them until one of them turns round and notices him.
Var's older, right?
Yeah, he's like, I guess, what people life expectancy ain't that great, but he's an adult, so he's probably in his like late 20s, 30s,
Sure.
maybe.
And you're intentionally kind of going to some of the younger hunters as opposed to the older ones. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, it doesn't take long, and one of them almost visibly shudders and turns and looks at you and is like, what do you want?
And I reach out just my arm and I point at his chest, and he's wearing some armor.
Okay.
And I'm just like, you don't need that.
But I made it for me.
And we're the same size. Life's been good to you. And now we're going out to save everyone. The least you
I
can
love
do
it.
is give us a help. You're too young to come with us, but this way you'll be part of the expedition. Imagine.
So he notices that some of the other tribes members have willingly just given things to the others in your group, and so he very reluctantly, without a roll, but he very reluctantly pulls this pretty nice like stone and fiber breastplate that he's made up over his head, and he hands it to you. He's like, will you bring it back?
We'll have to see what the future brings.
It took me several days to make that.
Well,
At
the
night,
next time,
instead of sleeping.
the next time you make it faster.
So yeah, you've got a breastplate. Describe it as you wish, but it's a flexible breastplate, which comes into play if certain things happen. But yeah, it's armor for your chest. All right. Is that all everybody wants?
I think I'm good.
Okay.
Let's go.
So, as you were told, there is a river that you're going to have to forge at some point. And so you'll have to think about how you're going to accomplish that. Some of you have rope. It might be possible with some time. I mean, you're not necessarily on a super rush to do this because although, it is getting cooler, it's not like snow is falling yet. So you'll have to think of some ways to get across the river. But your other concerns as you travel are going to be having enough food and then possibly, creating or repairing any gear that needs that. So, set off. I assume you're going to head towards the smoking mountain. It does happen to be smoking right now, so it's pretty easy to see in the distance.
Yep.
Yep. Sounds good to me.
As said before, I mean, you are in kind of a plains area. It's broken occasionally by small wooded hillocks, and sometimes there's a ravine here or there created by runoff, but for the most part, it's tall grasses and nice, flat travel. Sky is blue, beautiful, relatively cloudless. Yet, because of that, you can see, even at the distance you're at now, the silhouette of the range north and the plume of smoke coming up from the mountain. Traveling throughout the first day, you don't really see anything unless you're intentionally wanting to try and hunt something, or I don't know if you all want to have a discussion about maybe you're going to make Ruck responsible for getting enough food for everybody as the gatherer, or all of you will help with that. But unless you're intentionally going to hunt something, you don't really see any wildlife, certainly not any people.
So how often is it that we need to kind of hunt? And like, I guess if we're not having anything, then it would probably be done on the way.
It depends on how lucky our catch is.
Yeah. I mean, this isn't a hard and fast survival type game, but you're going to need to spend some time every day of travel making sure that you're getting some food and some water. The area that you're in is pretty lush. Even though it is relatively flat, it shouldn't be difficult to find sources of water, perhaps in the form of small pools, possibly even drinking sap from some of the trees in the wooded areas that
Could we
through.
be
I have a
looking at
gourd, so we could carry some water with us.
Me too. Could we be gathering food from some of the plants as we're passing by?
Absolutely, you could. Yeah.
Grass stuff have seeds
Yeah,
or
and a sling will help with small game.
Well, I think
also you could hunt for some small game for sure.
I think there's a lot of stuff that sleeps during the day and that hunt at night. So maybe we know how to find their lairs and where they would typically stay and sleep. And
sure.
Bugs and grubs.
look out for birds' nests.
I'm surprised Var didn't say young people.
Var turns over the occasional rock as he's walking and finds a millipede or something. And
yeah, small digestible pebbles are really good. They fill you up.
Help you grind your food if you don't bother chewing.
Vitamins and minerals.
When it comes to making sure you have enough food with foraging, that's really just going to be a simple die roll. You want to have a couple of you attempt that while someone is keeping watch as you're moving throughout the day. You don't really need anybody to lead you because you do have, like, you know where you're going,
Yeah.
which is definitely handy. Sure.
So if I could use accurate or dexterous to give me a bit of a boost while hunting.
All right.
So
I can be
for
on watch.
foraging, we're in grasslands.
Just because I'm kind of hunting like
It's
this
going to
small
be an
game rather
aware
than foraging.
test. It's going to be an aware test.
Oh man.
But if you're kind of doing a little bit of bull foraging and hunting, then you can get a tool die. For a group your size, you're fairly certain you're going to need to probably have one of you do both forage and hunt. Although
Yeah.
no, because as a gatherer, you're going to earn bonus material anyways.
Yeah, I was wondering for like the improvised tool thing, could I make the improvised tool to make it a proper tool and then give that tool to someone else?
Sure, yeah.
So I was thinking like I could fashion like, well, if someone's like foraging for berries or whatever, I could probably grab like a forked branch or something and then
Right.
fashion to like a rake. It's a sort of rough, shape it into like a rake or something that they can use to like basically stripping the berries off the bushes.
Yeah, I love it. Go ahead. So who wants to?
That's a wise
assist
test, isn't it?
With it is a wise test to make an appropriate tool.
Okay, here goes. It may all be for nothing.
Sure.
It was all for nothing. Never mind.
Okay, fair enough. So anybody who wants to forage needs to do a aware test.
All right. I think I said I was going to be watching while
Fair.
people are doing that.
Yeah.
I got a 6.
Yep, that's all you need is one.
I got 2 6s. One thing I've just learned today, that apparently the 3D dice can stack on top of each other, which is not ideal.
Right. Yeah.
I've got a 6.
Okay. So as you're traveling, you're all, with the exception of Cool, who's kind of keeping a lookout, you're all just kind of gathering a few things here and there. And let's see. Why don't each of you go ahead and give me a quick 3d6 roll, as you all succeeded. And tell me what the total is.
7.
9.
What was yours, Russ?
12.
Oh, okay. So let's see, 7, 9, and 12. So yeah, between the three of you, you find various dark berries, blackberries, blueberries. You find some edible fungi and some nuts, hazelnuts, cashews, things like that. And between the three of you, with the bonus Brooks gathering, you find an additional 3 meals, if I remember correctly, is what I told you. So you guys actually find enough for 7 days.
Oh, nice.
So you're doing
Nice.
great.
So I only have to eat one of
our.
We'll only have to eat one of our party for the return trip, and then we'll be fine.
So because you're all doing that foraging, you didn't travel quite as far on the first day, but you do have several days of food, and at least one of you had a bag or a container of some sort that put stuff in. So
Yeah, I got bags and pouches all over.
good to go. And that stuff will keep for a few days, especially the nuts. Probably want to eat, and the fungus. Probably want to eat the berries first. But, yeah, you're good for several days. So making camp for the night. Are you going to make camp kind of out in the open, or you want to find like a secluded area?
Well, somewhere secluded and safe is probably ideal. I could make a fire.
Yeah, fire is good. Always have fire.
How well versed are we at making shelters up trees?
In the trees themselves, I mean, it's certainly something you can attempt, but I mean, individually, you could each probably attempt to climb a tree and find a relatively secure space in it. But as far as like building a platform, I mean, that's not something you're going to have time to do in a single day.
Yeah.
But there are wooded areas where you can certainly find some trees that would be large enough for some of you to attempt to get up in them. When you have to see what the dice say.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I mean, if you were to try and cut the tree down with your bone, this isn't Minecraft.
You can't just punch it until it.
But I would love it as well if we went to like camp in the trees and got attacked by monkeys instead. Yeah, we can find somewhere that's like either like against like a cliff face or something where we can have like security from like one direction or whatever, and then we can build a pit fire.
So like a stone outcropping. I mean, you're not
somewhere secure.
You're gonna find cliffs at this point, but
yeah,
I get what you're saying. So yeah, that's going to be another aware test, or possibly wise. I'll allow wise for this one.
If we get any character advancement, I know what I'm going to be increasing.
Yeah, aware is pretty big.
I got 6.
Okay.
I can do wise. Wise I can do.
Yeah, really either one of those there.
God dang it. Nothing.
Russ, did you say you had a 6?
No, I failed.
Oh, okay. And we're back after a perfectly timed 100% intentional break. We just forgot to announce that we were taking. But yeah, so as we were before taking our break, depending upon how much people saw before we took the break, you all were looking for a good place to camp, and we had at least one successful roll from our gatherer. And so you managed to find a nice rock outcropping in a lightly wooded area to be able to set up a camp in. I think one of you, possibly again, Baruch, our gatherer, was going to make a fire. And yeah, so that's where we are. Are you going to keep watches, or is everybody just going to lay out?
Bar's telling stories about they basically chronicle the deaths of the 5 most recent people in the tribe. And he's just given the details of their glorious ends. But he's not telling it in a kind of heroic fashion. He's just trying to state the inevitability of it.
Wow.
Okay. A living.
So I think we're all going to be sleeping on the first watch then.
Yeah, I don't think any of us are going to be sleeping tonight. We're all going to be on watch.
It's them talking to the darkness.
And this is where we learn exhaustion rules in Paleomythic.
So, out of curiosity, does Var take pleasure in this? Or is it just something he sees as a duty?
He only he's only ever seen this. He doesn't look at the positives. He doesn't
Okay.
see the sun climbing. He only sees the sunset. He doesn't see people's happiness. He doesn't look at the births that happen in the tribe. He's just always been drawn to that side, and so he's comfortable in it. I guess it's yeah, it's necessary, and maybe part of that is because nobody else nobody else does that. Yeah, it's
Right.
like it's just this is where he's been drawn to his doomsayer.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's and maybe this is part of his awakening to his ability to cause suffering and pain. This is him holding back.
Right. Okay. Um. So as you're telling your tales, I don't know if anybody else. Well, and you're not even really necessarily doing this for everybody else's sake. I mean, you're just recounting, right? It's not
Mm,
like you're okay. So it's more like a ritual for you as opposed
mm,
to hey everybody, listen to these cool stories
mm.
that I think are cool anyway. Yeah, okay, I gotcha. So as you're doing your recitation, um, you're obviously awake. Is anybody going to try and get some sleep while Var is
Um,
making his recitations?
Cool's trade is also wise, but I think it's wise because he's learning from wise people. So anything
Okay,
that Var does and says, I will be doggedly at his heels, listening and observing and getting ready to take my place to tell these stories too.
okay. So yeah, Cool is raptly listening to Var as he's making his recitations, regardless, I think, of whether or not Var actually engages with him. He's just listening. Um, how about Taran and Baruch? Are they listening, or are they just gonna like, oh, this again, and get some sleep?
Yeah.
I think Torrin probably would be a little bit like that. She'd just be like, "Oh, not having to hear about this old guy, who died however many moons ago or whatever."
Yeah.
And I think she'd probably too have like a mark or something on her just of those 3 lines, and I think she'd be running that over with a fingernail, just kind of like almost like a meditative practice
Sure.
as she was like dozing off.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I think Barak, is more of a current, like present day and optimistic future person rather than
Right.
bogged down by the past.
Definitely a lot more grounded than the rest of the people around you currently. You're a much more
It's a low bar.
material. Yeah, maybe. But yeah, the day to day I think is probably more important to you. Cool. So we'll say that you two doze off, and Var and Cool are kind of Var's doing his thing, Cool is listening, and so you are both awake. And for a time while you're doing your recitations, and Cool is listening, and the rhythmic slumber, perhaps some noises depending upon their various states. Perhaps they snore, or perhaps it's just inhalations. Becomes very soothing into the middle time of the late night, uh, and nothing really happens. It's just quiet. It's peaceful. Uh, Cool gets a sense that there might be things around, uh, but if you look, you can't really see anything in specific. You're not getting a sense of danger, just a sense that maybe there are some otherworldly happenings, and maybe that's working in your favor and protecting you. Maybe it's not. Maybe it has something to do with Var's recitations or Taran's personal meditations. But yeah, nothing seems to happen. And at some point, if Var or Cool wants to get some sleep, you'll probably have to wake one or both of your companions once you start getting tired or once you feel you've got enough of recitation. And you'll be able to swap.
Well, so I'm looking at Cool, and I've finished telling the last story about the person who fell down the cliff and clung onto a rock in the river, but couldn't be reached because of the rapids, and the lessons that were learned and all that. Yeah, just going through that.
But what was all that red stuff after? What was that used for? Why did the ground turn red underneath him?
Everything inside us goes back to the ground that we walk on. You've seen people buried. Watching the life drip out of those that walk among us. They're going back to all that is there. And it is our endpoint, our final destination, as the destination before us is that smoking mountain.
Could you tell me more stories about the great hunts, maybe? I haven't heard those stories in a long time.
Tomorrow night, Cool. Tomorrow. Let's sleep now. Torin will take the next watch. We'll go wake her. You go wake her, Cool.
Torin.
What?
Your turn to watch now.
Oh, okay.
Var's finished telling his stories. You should have really stayed up to listen to them.
But then who would take the next watch?
It's important to know how people fall off cliffs.
I mean, you probably shouldn't just go too close to the edge of the cliff. Or you should jump right off it, depending on.
Well, Var was telling me about the wind, and sometimes the wind can do unpredictable things, and so you could be walking somewhere and the wind can take you away. And if there's a cliff nearby, that could be very dangerous. We have to learn how to figure out wind and when it's going to come and from where, or which gods we should talk to about that.
I mean, yeah. But the wind is here and it's all around us, and Taran just sort of like stands and spins.
It's strong, and sometimes it's weak, and sometimes it's noisy, and sometimes it's quiet, and sometimes it brings smells with it.
It is the will of the gods as to what the wind does. And she's just spinning hair and like clothing fluttering around.
As she's spinning, she notices something on the top of the rock outcrop that you guys have built your camp kind of underneath. And it is a absolutely huge stag.
Oh.
Oh.
Pop me out of there.
That.
A stag.
And it is it is silver and gray.
Does it look like spiritual or magical?
Well, tough for you to say, but Jake is definitely feeling something.
Taran is just going to turn to him and like go, I think that's something to do with you, kid. And just like put her hand on his shoulder, even though she's only 15 and probably not actually that much older than him.
So I'm going to ask you to watch over me because I may have to go somewhere. And does it look like he's in this world with me here physically that I can go up, or is this something I want to travel to
it's
meet his?
physically in this world.
Okay.
I mean, Taran can see it, so it's here.
Right.
You know from your modicum of experience that although your doomsayer friend and your cultist friend are gifted in their own ways, they don't really perceive the spirit the same way that you do.
Okay.
Not yet, anyway. So
Hmm.
it is here, but you're also getting a sense off of it that it is also there as a foot in both worlds.
Oh, I think I'm going to have a much better chance of talking to it in the other world.
Probably.
So I am going to, go into my into my pouch of incest and mix it with like some water and mud and smear it on my face and stuff it in my nose and inhale it until I get to that state of semi-consciousness where I.
Okay. So yeah, if you go through all of your preparations, I mean, it's probably going to take you the rest of the night to get into that position, and you'll have some time to speak to it before morning. Although there's nothing about the morning that prevents you from engaging with the spirit. It takes time.
Okay.
That does, however, mean that you're not going to get any sleep.
Okay. Fair enough.
Meditative trances do not count as sleep.
No, they. Okay.
Okay, so you'll go ahead and do that. Is Taran doing anything for the evening? I mean, obviously keeping watch, but is she diligently keeping watch, or is she revering the spirits?
I think she would be like, particularly knowing that Cool is obviously trancing or whatever. I think she would probably be keeping a fairly firm eye on the thing, just because, I think that puts him, like, he's at greater risk then, and therefore there's not as many people to defend us as a group.
Sure.
And I think, though, she would probably be singing just, like, songs of the hunt, like a really low, sort of helping to keep herself awake.
As you're watching Cool prepare, the stag doesn't go anywhere, and in fact, it kind of lowers itself as stags do. I don't know if I've ever seen a deer lower itself to the ground, but I know they can do that. And so it lowers itself to the ground and just kind of rests, looking down into the encampment. And again, although you're not quite as versed in the spirit world as Cool is, you do get a sense that it's here to protect you in some way. Like I said, it's very large, so even if one of the roaming wolf packs had decided to approach your camp, it probably could have easily run them off, and maybe there's something working in your favor, keeping you safe.
Taran would definitely see that as a sign from her.
Sure.
God. And she'd probably not be singing the deer hunting songs.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. Is that some chips, Croy, or did you have something to add?
I guess Var's lying listening to the young talking and listening to the singing and not really worrying too much because he knows enough about things to know when not to meddle, so he just keeps quiet and drifts off to sleep.
All right. So, Jake, after a time, probably close to when Barak and, well, Lar would be waking to rejoin the waking world, you probably would have just about that time slipped into the spirit world. And yeah, in fact, the stag is present in the spirit world as well.
Do you know my friend, the wise gazelle?
I have seen many gazelle on the plains. I sensed your group approaching. It's the only reason why I've come down.
We're searching. We're searching for safety in the mountain.
Probably among the smoking mountain, I would assume.
Yes.
Well, it can be a safe place.
Can be? What do we have to do to make sure that that's what it is?
Well, I think you'll have to discover that once you get there.
Well, oh yes, but what's your name?
You would know me as a stag. I have no name.
Is it okay if I call you the aloof stag?
You may.
What? The wise gazelle was very helpful. He warned us about the white bear and the hunters in the mountain, and about the people that look like us, but they do have tails and we didn't grow ours yet, and they have scales and we didn't grow ours yet.
Oh, I think it's more of a function of the reverse of that. Your kinds diverged long ago, and in fact, your kinds developed more quickly than theirs did. They're a dying race, much older than yours.
That's horrible.
Well, that's life.
Well, we don't want them to be mad at us. We just want to share the mountain with them. Maybe we can help them.
Well, you can
tell
certainly
them,
try to engage with them.
We can share all our stories about how tribes people die so that they can learn.
That would be an interesting tactic. As far as these other dangers your wise gazelle mentioned, I mean, these are just spirits and people of the mountains. The great bear, yeah, he has been known to hunt a lot of the two-leg walkers, but not out of malice. He's just a bear. He lives as bears live. You encroach upon his territory, and he will defend himself. Wolf packs, they hunt, and they will take what prey they can when it's weak.
I noticed that you came to see me in the other world, and I then came to see you in this world. Can I do that with the white bear and maybe talk to the white bear like I'm talking to you?
Oh no, the bear is not as old as I am.
When I get old, will I be here?
Not when you get old. But there is a way for you to be here.
Oh, I'm here now. I know that. You just said that, like, when the white bear gets old, will he come here?
Perhaps. Your friend who was reciting the deaths of all your kind all evening would know more about it than I.
He hasn't told me those stories yet.
Well, I don't think you want him to tell your story yet.
Which way do we go in order to be safe and get up to the smoking mountain?
Do you want to find a safe place for your people, or do you want to try to engage with the others?
I want to find a safe place for my people. That is what we're to do.
If you go deep, you will encounter the others. If you take the lowest caverns, you will find yourself in their realm very quickly. If you climb to the peaks, there are other caves that you might enter, and while the peaks might be frigid, once you've found shelter, you'll be safe, and then you can travel down the exterior of the mountain to hunt, gather as you need. The depths are warm, but also the others' realms.
Do you know if they would share?
You would have to negotiate with them. I don't know how you would do so.
Well, you said they
You
were
don't
dying.
speak their language, do you?
How do I speak to them?
If there was one of them that was like you could perhaps communicate with them. But I don't know. I've never seen any of them here. All of us can communicate here.
So they have shaman too?
I've not seen one. I'm just saying if they had one.
Oh. Is the wise gazelle somewhere around?
I've not seen him.
Who else can we meet up at the mountain in this realm?
In this realm, well, the bear, the
No,
people
you
of
said the
tails
bear
and
is not in this
scales.
realm.
Oh, in this realm. There are many times many. Just depends on who is around when you travel yourself. This realm is just as populous as the one that you live in.
I will tell my friends. We will go to the higher parts of the mountain. And if we want to engage with these tailed people, then we will go to the lower parts. Where does the bear live?
In the higher parts.
But you said the higher parts was safer.
The bear is a safer bet than those who live deep.
Is there another mountain that is safe?
You could perhaps with time find another, but the only chambers that I know that are large enough are in the Smoking Mountain. That's how safe the mountain itself will be after a time. It is waking.
I will tell my friends. They will tell me what they think.
I will continue to watch.
You will watch over us? I can sleep?
If you wish to sleep through the day, sure.
I will talk to my friends. Is there something I can offer you?
Oh, no. Entertainment is all I would.
You will follow us?
Perhaps.
And we will be entertaining?
Perhaps.
Will you help us?
So he stands, and Karin also sees this in the real world. You see the Sag stand and just kind of walk away casually.
Have a good night.
Huh?
And at this point, the sun is coming up.
Right.
What day?
What?
And if that woke you up, then you wake up just in time to see just a gigantic stag silver gray, walking off down from the outcrop, kind of towards the forest, which is still a good 2 or 3 days travel.
The watch must have gone well if that snuck up on you.
Well,
It was.
Baruch Torin, I met an aloof stag, and he told me that the people with the tails and the scales are dying, and that we will never grow tails, nor will we have scales, that we are far more advanced than them. And he also told me that they live in the lower areas where it's warmer. But if we want to be safe, we have to go up to the higher areas where it's colder. But there's a bear up there who hunts sometimes, but he's not as dangerous as the people with the scales and the tails.
A bear? Where?
On the Smoking Mountain.
There?
There's a bear over there.
Up top. But
where's the bear?
Why?
Where are we going?
Stag would tell me that he's not as dangerous as the people.
You sure it was an aloof stag and not a deceptive stag?
I don't know. He seemed very aloof about him, the answers he gave.
Actually, a really good question.
Cool.
What's that?
That's actually a really good question. Are you sure he's not a deceptive stag?
Why
Brian's
would
like,
he want to fool us? We apparently provide him with entertainment. He will maybe stay with us and watch us and be entertained by us.
People definitely do not deceive other people for their own entertainment.
Right. So we're not going to do like 3 or 4 days of travel because that would be ridiculous. You guys have provisions for several days. The question is, though, do you want to try to find a lower entrance through the forest to this mountain, or do you want to go up to the peaks and try to find an entrance up top?
I think that would depend. Have we ever had experience with the people with the scales and the tails?
Not that any of you are aware of. Pretty much anybody that you've ever encountered that was not one of your people was of a similar kind of person. 2 arms, 2 legs, various skin tones, variously proportioned, of course, but like you. Some of those people have even become members of your tribe, and some of your tribe have left to join other tribes. But to say that there are people with tails and scales, it's very strange. And I mean, again, you can enter the spirit world and talk to spirit creatures, so I mean that's strange, but it seems odd. Had you maybe asked someone back in camp before you had left, maybe there would have been an elder that might have had some stories, but out here I can tell you that none of the 4 of you have ever heard of people like that. But who's to say what's out there in the world? You've heard stories of extremely large lizards. Suddenly getting...
You're getting feedback. That sounds like the clip. Yeah.
That's fine. But yeah, you've heard
stop
stories.
doing that in the middle.
you've heard stories of extremely large, some people call them terror lizards, that exist to the south. But as far as lizard or snake-like people, no.
Well, then we have a decision to make. Do we want to meet with them and see if we can talk with them and then maybe stay in the lower warm areas with them? Or do we want to discover what's on top in the colder areas? I like warmth.
I'm interested to know what Var and Arak and Tarn think of this themselves. Like, does it sound like he's just telling you hooey about people with scales and tails? I can see why Cool believes it, because he's been told twice now by two separate entities. But I don't know, you guys can't travel in the spirit world. You don't even really know if he does.
I don't either, I guess.
He just spaces out sometimes.
He just spaces out.
Yeah, exactly. I put mud on my face and
smears some mud on his face.
Seem to get dizzy,
yeah.
and I go unconscious for a bit.
So you have a choice between a hypothetical bear or a hypothetical people with scales and tails.
Correct.
I think Taryn just wants, like, she's fairly, I think, would be fairly, like, keen to jump into risky situations, so I don't know that she's particularly fussed as to what it is, because she just wants to, like, prove herself and prove.
Oh, okay.
Like, that she, I guess, is worthy.
Sure.
Of the club that she follows. Yeah.
Let's go for the bear then.
Well,
if they turn out to be true, that's only a single thing we have to fight. Potentially, may not even need to fight it.
Right.
Another thing that I was told by the wise gazelle, I remember something about trading, giving them something they need and getting something in return.
Well, I think the gazelle said that, you might trade with them, but again, there's still the question of how you would communicate, how you would approach peacefully. But yeah, I guess it's possible. There was something that you had of value. Who's to know what they would find valuable, though?
Next time I see a spirit animal, I'm going to go to the world, to that spirit animal world, and find out if these people with scales and tails have sticks, what size they are, and then maybe we just need bigger ones.
Okay, interesting. So traveling to the forest, as I said, there's a river in the way, so you have to overcome that. Has anybody had any thoughts about how you're going to overcome the river? It's big. It's like prehistoric big. Several 100 yards across. Raging at points. And there's no established roads, no bridges.
Rivers are shallowest where they are widest. If we find a section of the water that moves quick but runs, maybe we could walk down its side, up. Maybe we could walk against its current. Maybe we could find a point where stones are. Maybe we could see where the water is spread out over the most of them. Maybe there animals might know how to cross.
Oh, that's an interesting idea. So how would you determine where it's shallowest? What are you gonna look for?
Poke it with a stick.
That's one way you could do it, but it's pretty wide. I mean, you don't want to get all the way out into the river and then have it drop out underneath.
Could we get the shaman to perhaps see if they can summon the buoyant duck?
It wouldn't be able to help
Just
any
ferry
of
us
you.
across the water.
Actually, I don't know if it'd be able to help him.
I mean, a giant stag turned up that he said he spoke to, so...
Yeah, but the stag is like an interesting thing. And not most Cool would know that most things don't have a foot in both. Shamans do. Some very powerful spirits do. And some unquiet dead do. But it's not like very normal to find someone who's in places. And technically, Cool's not in both places. He has to essentially knock himself out to be able to go to one place.
Oh, we can help with that.
That's true. You could. But I like the idea of talking about other animals. Like, you could potentially scout along the shoreline and see if you can find like a track of animals that have been using, because that would be relatively easy to find, depending upon your dice rolls, relatively easy to find. So I think those are all great ideas. Unless anybody has other ideas, we can pull based on that.
How long is the rope that Cool?
So the
Yeah, I got the rope as well, in case it helps.
Got rope. So I think, I mean, we can just say that it's a useful amount of rope. With two of you that have rope, you could do something like tie each other together into a line, so that if one of you loses footing, you could potentially prevent anybody from slipping off. But even with those two useful bits of rope, I don't know if it's enough rope. Well, none of you have bows, so even if you had enough rope, it's not like you'd be able to fire a line to the other side of it. Which is, as I said, it's several hundred yards across. But enough to tie off to each other, sure. You could do that with rope.
Yeah, you can try and make a fording chain.
For sure. So why don't we go ahead and we'll do it in two stages. We'll go with finding stuff first, so wise or aware to try and find shallow spot based on the lovely line of rivers are shallowest where they're widest, which I don't know how accurate that is, but I love that line so much I wrote it down. And,
I mean, if it turns out that we make it across alive, then it's true.
right, for sure.
If we all die horribly, then it is false.
Now I'm just thinking of like some of the rivers I know. I'm like, the Mississippi ain't shallow where it's wide. I can tell you that right now. But I love the line. But yeah, between that and like looking for tracks of animals fording the river, because they would have to, if they were moving around.
I did roll a 6. Woo!
Yep, I see a 6 from Croy. Is this for the finding the spot to ford?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I got nothing.
All right, well, we'll take that 6 as a success. Now, for getting across, I need everybody to make fortunate rolls. So if you have fortunate, add another die. And everybody's going to add a tool die for the rope. So make sure that's a different color, because if that ends up a 1...
Don't roll a 1 on the tool die.
Yeah, and how do we roll the second color on there? Yeah.
So on the D6 die at the bottom, you should just be able to click a number of 6s and then click a different 6 to get the different color in there once.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, 2 6s.
I got 6 on the tool and 1 6 additionally.
I got a 6 on the tool and I got a 1 for the other stuff, but no 6s.
Okay. No, 6 on the tool is great.
And this is a which roll? Sorry.
Fortunate.
All right. So then I just roll the base 5, and then I need to bring in another. Oh, that's wrong. Anyways. All right. Let's try that again. I should know now. All right. That's 6, and on the tool die, just because it's easier for me this way, I don't get a 1. So.
Okay, but, and this is how helping works. Everybody else, at least one of you, got an extra 6, correct?
Hmm.
So you're able to give that 6 to Jake.
Yay.
And so Jake is successful. Yeah, so you successfully ford the river. It was indeed shallow at the wide point that you found, so that statement from Var is true as far as we know. He is very
Totally not
wide.
going to get us killed at some other point.
All right, so fording the river is no problem. You get to the forest, and really, I mean, with where we're at, rather than getting deep into climbing and exploring caves, I think this might be a good spot to call it for today.
Mm-hmm.
And then we pick up tomorrow at the foot of the mountain with a decision to make and some experiences to be had.
Sounds ominous.
All right. Well,
and this is a party. Good. Is there a party?
A what?
A party? You said there were experiences.
I don't know. Yeah, I think one of the experiences should be getting up to the top of the mountain, accidentally making a boulder fall down, and then creating rock and roll.
Starting an avalanche? Sure.
So mount the
That'd
mountain,
be a great experience.
rock and roll.
So just so that we have the full feel of this game before we call it for today, normally you would do this over longer sessions. But the way that you handle experience in this game is you tell stories. So I would like everyone to tell a short, like 1 sentence or, small paragraph story of something that happened today and how that will enable you to learn a new trait.
I speak to very old beings. One was a gazelle and one was a stag. And I know they're old because they told me that some people, when they're old, go to the spirit world. And I'm young and I can go to the spirit world already. So I think I may have an old soul. And I don't know if that's a trait, but that's my sentence.
Well, which trait do you think that would give you? Out of the list on your character sheet.
Is that what the deceptive yak told you?
I already have wise. Willful, maybe?
Yeah, potentially. Or resilient. Maybe your old soul has made you particularly strong in mind.
Or, you know what? It could also just be fortunate, because I'm fortunate to have somebody telling me all these stories, and fortunate to have these old things that are engaging with me, and I'm so young.
Yeah, so go ahead and give yourself fortunate there. Check that off. Croy, what do you think?
So at night, there was the stories being told, and when Var tried to go to sleep, he heard singing. Soft singing, lovely singing. And for a while he listened to it, and there was almost a part of him that was drawn to that singing that began to remind him of something. But as he was lying there and then listening to Cool's ceremony, he forced himself to ignore it and to retreat from it and go to sleep and not be drawn into that. The singing was beautiful, the scent in the air, The words being spoken, he could see that there was something there, but he didn't want a part of it. And so he fell asleep instead. And he willed himself to do that.
Thought maybe that's where you were going. Okay, so willful, excellent. Lloyd.
So I was thinking for Baruch, because he's getting on a bit. So he's he's in his 40s. I think like he still has like quite a keen eye for like sort of his hunting gathering, but like today he sort of struggled with like being aware of what's going on. Like either he needs to like just sort of focus more or pay more attention or just sort of reorientate himself, because everyone sort of like the whole tribe and everything, they're depending on him to pull through on this. So he needs to like knuckle down and
Pay attention.
Yeah, basically.
Okay. So aware, nice. And what's Taran's story?
Devwicca has provided us with this bountiful food. She has encouraged us to be wild in our resource gathering and potentially take some risks. Maybe some of those berries were particularly difficult to get at, or the nuts that we gathered were from particularly tall trees or branches that we had to reach for. She has guided us towards such things. And she favors those who are bold and reckless, who step forward into nature, take it. Does fortune favor the bold?
Nice. Fortune, excellent. All right, so yeah, tomorrow we will pick up and we will see where our expedition takes us.